Tonight, Nashville, Tennessee. Wait, leave that up for a second, Caitlin. Tonight, Nashville. Tomorrow, Atlanta. And then next week, I go to the thriving metropolis of Casper, Wyoming. I'm actually super excited about that. Casper, and then Greely, Colorado. So all those shows are going to be great. And then we've got Boston, Hartford, Tulsa, a bunch of other cities after that. You can see them here on YouTube, or you can go to jfcomedytour.com. Okay, Caitlin, thank you for that image. By the way, I'm so excited about my opener in Nashville and Atlanta. He's the comic I've mentioned before who I've worked with, Donnie Sengstack. He has a stutter, a very significant stutter. And for people who wonder, oh, is that a bit? Is that his shtick? Nope. I've talked to him. I told you years ago, I told you guys, I met him when I was on, when Nate Bargatze hand selected me to be one of the first comics that he ever worked with in his showcase series. Did I just drop that? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, just my excellent friendship with Nate just, coming to mind here. So I met Donnie on that. And I had no idea he was a comic. I thought he was someone's brother or manager or something, because I have limiting beliefs. Unlike Donnie, I might say, if you have a stutter, you can truly do anything in life, except for one thing. You cannot be a stand-up comic. You cannot be a stand-up comic. And yet he's one of the best. He is truly excellent. Mm-hmm. So come out, right now we've sold 2 tickets in Nashville. I'd like to get that up to 3. So come out to my Nashville show. Very bitter about that. In Atlanta, one of those sections is actually sold out. The whole thing might sell out in Atlanta. Again, get your tickets and go look up the other cities where I will be, including Salt Lake City, Greely, and Casper coming right up. And I mention those because we cannot do an episode next week. I'm hitting my limit. I just can't. Because I'm doing these shows, and then I'm only home for a couple days, and then I go back out to the Salt Lake City Casper run. And think about this. I perform in Salt Lake City on a Wednesday night. I wake up in Salt Lake City Wednesday morning. I have to be on stage in Greely, Colorado that night. So I wake up Thursday in Salt Lake City, and by 5 p.m. that day, I have to be in Greely, Colorado. So you guys better be bringing like 20 of your friends out to these shows, because that is a lot. It'll be a lot of fun though. But because I'm going to be exhausted with all this stuff, I had to call it. We cannot do a podcast episode for next week. So you guys will have to try to survive without me. All right. The topics today, I think I'm going to do this whole show without notes. I have 3 bullet points. I have 7 words spread across 3 bullet points for today. We're going off the cuff for this one. The 3 topics are, I think you guys have more trauma than you realize from just current events, the news, things like that. Second topic is people saying Ozempic is a shortcut, that people are, they're sort of cheating, so to speak. Lizzo has been in the news off and on for all her weight loss, and she admitted that she did use Ozempic and things like that. I have very impassioned thoughts about that. And then women talking about losing themselves in motherhood, feeling like I've lost, but I don't know who I am now that I'm a mother, or for those of you guys who aren't mothers, worrying that might happen. You have this identity, you like yourself, you like your personality, and you think, do I have to let go of all of that? So those are the 3 topics we will discuss. Welcome to the Jen Fulwiler Show. This is the podcast where you learn the art of the village hustle. That is being a hot girl boss, or hot boy boss, who knows that love and family and community are the foundations of all true success. Caitlin White is our lovely producer. We come to you every Wednesday morning, except next Wednesday. Can't do it. But other than that, we come to you fresh new episodes every single Wednesday. We are coming to you from Austin, Texas, and we have a patreon.com/thisisjen. I have a whole bunch of great bonus content. The new Village Hustle Patreon episode, which is the second level, is I finally got a photo shoot done, and I brought you guys behind the scenes. I hate photo shoots. I hate them. And I brought you guys behind the scenes to just doing my own makeup, pulling everything together, just trying to get dishes done around my house while I'm getting ready for a photo shoot. It was kind of a vlog of that day. So that is episode whatever, the one that just came out on Patreon. And then after this episode of the podcast, we always roll straight through into the after party where I keep talking on this subject or some kind of related subject, often getting a little more personal, a little more behind the scenes on the Patreon. Patreon.com/thisisjen. And that link is also in the show notes. And then one last housekeeping thing is I mentioned there is a Facebook group. Now, I did not start it. I did not even look at it. I have not looked at the Facebook group. I am traumatized because someone else I know has a Facebook group that other people put together. And I was once discussed in that Facebook group very unkindly. So I'm now traumatized by the whole idea of Facebook groups, but I'm sure it's great. My friend Ellen, I feel like I know her. She's been a part of this craziness for a long time. She put it together. It is called, what's it called? Jen's Biker Gang. It's called Jen's Biker Gang. I love the concept. So search for Jen's Biker Gang on Facebook. And I like the idea because you guys can find like-minded people. I'm still thinking of ways to connect people who go to my shows. I love that idea of building community, building village. But again, we discussed this last week. Why don't I have the bandwidth to do that, Caitlin?
Because you don't have a village.
Because I'm because I'm not rich and famous. I'm thinking about money and fame and clout, not village. It's like I need to be rich and famous, and then I can hire. We will assign one of our 10 staff members. We'll be like, you are the village coordinator. I will travel with an entire entourage of people. Caitlin and I will fly first class to all these places. We'll show up really refreshed and ready, and then my village coordinator will be there too, and she'll be connecting you guys with each other and forming community, and it'll be great. So again, you guys are not doing enough work making me rich and famous. Please add that to your to-do list for this month. Share this podcast and all my shows and everything with all your groups and all your friends. Okay, let us begin with a more serious subject. There's obviously a lot of serious and heavy things going on in the news. We're recording this one a couple days before it airs, so there might be new things that I don't even know about as of this recording. But obviously, Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Just absolutely horrific. Terrible situation. And right before that, there was the Ukrainian refugee who was stabbed on the bus. And then the shooting at the Catholic school. I mean, it's heavy. There's a lot of very heavy things going on, and that's just in America. Then there's all the tragedies playing out all over the world in different areas. And I am here to remind you guys of this. I'm not going to make commentary on any of these particular events. I will leave that to every single other person with an internet connection who is holding forth on this. They have it taken care of. We've got all the angles covered. So here is where I think I can add value. You guys know that one of the things I think about all the time, one of the primary things that I do on this podcast, we even changed the description to reflect this, is that I think a lot about evolutionary psychology, how that combines with what we know of the human soul from Catholic intellectual tradition. And I combine all of that to help you guys understand how to thrive and exist in a modern world that you were not really designed for. I think of this podcast, it's kind of like the owner's manual to being a woman or a man, being human in the world today. Because I think I spent my whole life trying to figure this out as someone who was raised with no faith and no village, no community, not even much family to speak of. New listeners, I am an only child. My father was an only child. Even my mother did not have cousins. She had no first cousins. So I come from small family city. I I just didn't have a lot of the things that people naturally need. And I've spent my whole life figuring out the ways that impacted me and ways to kind of de-crazy and thrive in the midst of it. So that you probably notice a trend that a lot of my takes on things are coming from that perspective. And I think just building awareness of how much you were not designed in terms of your soul, in terms of just your animal, evolved body for what you experience in the world today. I think it just helps you. When you know that, it helps you figure out how to process some of the pain points you experience. Okay, so let me get to what I'm saying here is, I think most of us probably, unfortunately, saw the Charlie Kirk video. Did you see it, Caitlin?
Yeah.
Yeah. I did. Now, I did not see the video of the stabbing in Charlotte. I saw still pictures from it, but I didn't. Luckily, that one did not autoplay on my feed, and I would not look that up or anything. But I think most of us, I would say most people I know, just accidentally saw the Charlie Kirk video. When the news broke, I didn't know what had happened or what I was looking at, and it actually makes me sick to even call it to mind right now. So a lot of us saw that. And many people did. They had one of those autoplay situations in the Charlotte murder as well. And I am here to remind you guys that is not normal to see that kind of thing. Frankly, it's also not normal to be even aware of all the sadness and horror that goes on in the world. What's going on in the Middle East. And there was, I believe it was, this is like breaking news as of right now. I don't have the details, but I think it was in the Congo. There was a boat crash and like more than 100, I want to say women and children were, again, I just saw this before we went on the air. I mean, some horrible situation, great loss of life in the Congo. And it's like, it's so heavy. And the first thing I want to remind you is that it's great but unnatural to live in a point in history where we have this instantaneous access to knowledge of everything that's going on in the world. That's not normal. Frankly, even the advent of newspapers was very recent in human history. If you look at the way that 99.9% of your ancestors ever lived, it was word of mouth. I mean, a traveling merchant might come through your village and say, "Oh yeah, England attacked France again. It was crazy. It was a big war, and lots of people were killed. And I don't know. I think like the King of France is now the King of England. It's kind of a long story." And he'd be like, "Yeah, so that happened 4 months ago." And it's like, I mean, there was instantaneous nothing. And if there weren't merchants or travelers coming through your village, you had no idea what was going on in like what is now modern day Mongolia, China. You had no idea. And so we really weren't designed to process this level of just horrible and terrible things that happen. That's my first point. But the second point is that I've mentioned before something that I think is very important that very few people talk about, and how crazy that you're hearing it from a stand-up comic. I mean, you guys should really get a different source of information here. But one of the things that I think there is not nearly enough discussion about is that modern life does not have much trauma processing built into it. Modern life does not have much trauma processing built into it. The way that humans have always processed everything from the small traumas of daily life, like if you're a kid and your mom yelled at you, or the big traumas, like your tribe went to war with another tribe and people you cared about died, and whether it's small or big, traumas were always processed in community with other people, and often, not always, but often involved rituals. So again, let's say your Viking tribe went to war with another Viking tribe or whatever, there would be afterwards, first of all, a mourning for the people who were lost. And then the survivors would gather around the fire with goblets of mead. You guys know I tried to have my mead horn here. Turns out I don't think you were actually supposed to drink from it. They didn't mind getting hairs in their mouth from whatever beast this came from. They'd had a lot going on, and it was, you would dance and you would tell tall tales and you would frankly sometimes bend the truth in a therapeutic way, like, 10 guys came at me and I fought them all off, and there's kind of an understanding like, maybe it didn't exactly happen like that, but there's something therapeutic about gathering with the tribe and telling tall tales. And I've said before, I think that's how the greatest generation, and like my grandparents' generation and earlier, I think that's one of the ways that they were somewhat, they had less trauma than you would think from their parents being so harsh with them, is that they would gather in groups of kids. There was more extended family and lifelong friend networks where the kids could gather and be like, my dad tried to, smack me and I told him this and that. And again, an understanding, that probably did not happen if you're still alive to talk about it. But that was a trauma processing thing. People gathering together, singing, dancing, having religious rituals, telling tall tales, that sort of thing. And it gives you an outlet for trauma. And again, one of the reasons that I've become so interested in this is because my own childhood was very much on the extreme. I mean, I was very, very extreme of not having any outlets like this, being an only child who moved all the time and was weird and probably a little undiagnosed something there, and didn't have friends. And so I came to see how I did have this accumulation of trauma, not because my life was horrific or anything, but there was I did not have any kind of natural mechanism for processing and releasing these small traumas of daily life. So that's why I'm so passionate about the subject, and it's very personal to me. So all this is to say, your brain does not fully understand the difference between seeing something on video and having it actually happen. That's why when we watch a horror movie or some suspense movie, guys are trapped in a submarine or something, your heart is racing. You feel like you're having trouble breathing as they run out of oxygen or whatever, because our brains don't fully understand that this is not, that you're not actually in person seeing this. So when you see some horrible, horrific, terrible video that should have never been put out there, frankly, on social media of these horrible things that have happened in the past couple weeks, your mind doesn't fully understand that you weren't standing right there. I mean, the trauma registers as if you were there. And of course, even the part of your mind that knows you're watching a video, still, these are real things. This ain't no movie. These horrors really happened. And just your human empathy, your love of your fellow man, just it's I don't know. These are all obvious statements. It's just, these are absolutely horrific things to know about and certainly to see. All of this is leading up to the point. Don't be surprised if you find that you have some symptoms of, frankly, PTSD. And I'm dead serious. I know we think of PTSD as being only for people who have survived horrific abuse, wars, veterans, things like that. And of course, they have that too. But I really believe that because of the way modern life is set up, the average person living a pretty comfortable life can still have symptoms of PTSD, can still get PTSD, not because what we have gone through is so horrifically terrible, but because the things like seeing and hearing these traumatic things on the news, or just the little traumas of daily life, the cashier's rude to you. I mean, from big to small, these things accumulate because we don't live in tribes, because we don't live in villages, because we don't have ways to process these things, have ways to process these traumas with our community and with our tribes, because we are missing that, they can accumulate, and you can end up with symptoms of PTSD. And it could be anything from a chronic pain flare, aches and pains that you don't really understand where it's coming from. It could be sudden severe fatigue, like you simply cannot get enough sleep. You think you all of a sudden have a thyroid disorder or something like that. It could be snapping at your kids more than usual, like just really flying off the handle. It could, look up the symptoms of PTSD. And again, I would say, even though this isn't usually categorized in that category, just chronic pain, fatigue, things like that. And I am not an expert in how to release trauma, but there are tons of books on it. There is EMDR. I've done that. Frankly, as you guys know, I think journal speak. I think the book Mind Your Body I found that to be very effective at trauma release. So I will leave it up to you guys to find different ways to release trauma. There is somatic experiencing. In Austin, everyone is doing ketamine. That's it's, let me just say, okay, the tangent alert, because I live in Austin. I know this is not relevant to you guys who live in normal places, but I'm speaking here to my New York and LA listener, San Francisco people who live in places like I do. I know a bunch of people who have done ketamine for trauma release. Also ayahuasca, that's a big one. They're like, we microdose mushrooms and ayahuasca for trauma release. They're all just crazier. Like there's been nobody that I was like, oh, I might need to look into that because they sure are a lot better. No, just read Nicole Sachs' book, Mind Your Body, do journal speak, do not do ayahuasca and ketamine, guys. Okay. So, that's just what I want you to take away from that. That, don't be surprised if you have symptoms of unprocessed trauma, whether it is classic PTSD, extreme fatigue, pain, things like that, flying off the handle, getting unusually emotionally upset at things that shouldn't be causing that kind of upset, insomnia, things like that. Just consider that you might have some unprocessed trauma, even if you live a very lovely and blessed life, because it's not about the horror, the badness of the things that have personally happened to you. It's about the fact that you don't have natural mechanisms to process any of it. So even the quote unquote small things get all pent up and stuck inside. So that is I can't believe this is a stand-up comics podcast. And this is probably the only place that a lot of you guys are hearing this, which is crazy. Okay, let's go on to, okay, I love Kevin Fredericks, Kev on Stage. You guys should follow him if you don't. He's a delightful person. And he did a funny reel the other day about how his wife doesn't really think about food that often, which I think that it's everything that I have been saying. Okay, play this reel from Kev on Stage is his social media handle.
My wife never thinks about what she's going to eat the next day. Literally never crosses her mind. And that's so crazy to me. I'm always thinking about what I'm going to eat, hence the 270 of it all. But I was like, you never be like, oh, I'm going to be able to have a podcast studio. They got that good breakfast place across the street. I'm going to just grab a burrito after we shoot. She'd be like, no. I'm like, how? I'm always thinking about what I'm finna eat. That's the problem. I'll be in New York next week. I'm going to be like, ooh, I might go to Cats. I ain't been in a while. I want to hit up Quality Italian. And Quality Meats is new. I ain't have to go to. I ain't never been to Quality Meats. Want to see what hell they over there talking about? Twin? And she just never has that thought. I'm thinking about restaurants on the Ball Brothers tour that I can hit up. And that's going all the way to November.
That's Kevin Fredericks, Kev on Stage. I love following him. He is an absolute delight. This is, you know what it is? Caitlin, hit the, you know what it is sound effect. I feel like I need to have, we could put this in the show notes along with the link that will take you directly to YouTube so you can see that video of Kevin and the other media we play. That link is in the show notes, goes directly to this exact YouTube episode 270. Okay, so I feel like in the show notes, I should have core tenets of this podcast. There are certain paradigm shifts that I feel like the average person has not had. that I come back to frequently on the podcast. One is the one we just talked about, that modern life does not have mechanisms for processing any kind of trauma. So a lot of you guys are walking around with more pent up, unprocessed emotions than you realize. And you might have symptoms of trauma, not because your life has been so bad, but because you don't have ways to process it. Another core tenet that would be on the list is that food addiction is a spectrum. And the random spectrum that I have come up with, this is my own just thinking on this, is, let's say it's from 0 to 100. And if you are going to mouth off about how people need to have more willpower or blah, 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 you need to understand where you are on the spectrum and the person you are talking to where they are on the spectrum. It's one of the things that just drives me absolutely insane about modern life is there's all this discussion about getting fit and getting healthy. And most of it is by people who, from what I can tell, on a scale of 1 to 100, if 100 is like heroin addict level addiction, like people who literally weigh 600, 700 pounds. Okay, so they're so addicted to food. They are a 100 on the spectrum. And 0 is people, they couldn't care less. Like it's hard for them. If you're a 0 on the scale, it would be hard for you to not be underweight. You don't even like food. You never think about it. You don't care about it. Okay, that's the spectrum. I swear everyone who is 10 or under on the spectrum has an Instagram account, and they just talk. They just like constantly talk. And what they don't realize is how much this is not an even playing field. If you're a 5, a 10, a 15, a 20 on the food addiction spectrum, you don't have that much of an addiction. It's not that hard for you. And again, I talked to my personal trainer, Dana. You guys can follow her on Instagram. Her handle is Fit Foodie McCoy. She's awesome. And we have such a great rapport, which is surprising because we have nothing in common in terms of, I mean, Caitlin. Caitlin's like this a little bit. Yeah, but you're not as extreme as Dana. Dana is like if she's thinking, you know, we've got some free time in the next couple of weeks, what should we do? She's like, we need to go on this hike. We need to get up at 5 a.m. for this. We need to go rowing. We need to go paddle boarding. But you're a little bit like that, actually. Yeah. And so while we work out, because I need to do something to pass the time. So I always find these cerebral things to talk to her about so that I don't have to think about moving my body because I hate it. I talk to her about her relationship with food. And that's actually, my conversations with her are one of the things that made this spectrum of food addiction come into mind for me. So I've just quizzed her on, you know, if you're really hungry and you're really craving, quote unquote, something, what does that mean to you? Describe the moment of craving something. And it's so funny. So let's just say, I don't think she even eats lasagna, but let's pretend that lasagna is a food she really likes. She would say, oh yeah, okay, let's say I am starving and I'm craving lasagna. I would get a reasonable sized plate of it. And I would say, okay, so then what, when you first eat it, like what's going on in your mind? And she would say, yeah, I would notice the flavors and think this tastes good. And then I would connect with my feeling of fullness and think, you know, already my hunger is a bit satiated. So I think, you know, I'll have one bite and maybe a second bite. But then I just kind of, I don't know, I stopped thinking about it. I don't know. I'm like not thinking about it anymore. And a lot of times I'll forget to finish that lasagna.
Nope.
Let me tell you, I'm like, where is the part where you are defending your plate like a wolf, like a hungry wolf, and you're looking over at the serving tray and you're like, they're getting too close. They're getting get because I might want to get. I might want something. That's too big of a piece. Are you going to eat all that? Like, it's crazy that she doesn't have that. You know, if someone gets close to my food, I could pick them up by one hand and throw them through a wall sort of feeling. So we have talked about this before. I would say I'm probably maybe a between 40 and 50 on the scale of 1 to 100. So I can control it. I've found ways to drop weight or whatever, but left to my own devices, it is hard for me to control food. And if I am not putting intentional effort into it, I do tend to be about 20 or so pounds overweight. I don't have a tendency to be obese, but I do have a tendency to carry around extra weight if I am not watching it. So we've talked about this before. Now, I have not updated you guys on my thinking since Ozempic has become popular. I don't think we've really talked about it at all, right? So this is, I probably should have made this more of like a main topic thing. If you guys care, leave a YouTube comment. We can come back to it. But here's what I want to say about Ozempic. So Lizzo has lost a lot of weight. Pull up that picture. Again, you can click through, see this on YouTube. It'll take you directly to this episode. She looks amazing. I mean, honestly, I thought she looked amazing before. And I don't mean that in a patronizing way. It's a big thing. It's such a hack topic with stand-up comics. You know someone is out of ideas when they start making fun of body positivity. I thought she looked great before. I really did. And as you guys know, I have always been a defender of big Lizzo. Now she's small Lizzo, but I was always a defender and still am of big Lizzo, because there are going to be some people that it's not in the cards for them to lose weight. Is it objectively healthier to be thinner? Yes, that's just science. That's just a fact. But for some people, it's not in the cards, and that's whatever. We all do things that are a little bit unhealthy. I mean, you know, there are raw vegans in the world, and people generally leave them alone. You know, it's like that lots of people do things that are, it's okay. It's not optimum for your health, but whatever. So I thought it was great that she was just kind of like, it is what it is. I am heavier. And you know what? I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm going to wear fun clothes too. I'm going to do great makeup and great hair too. I'm not going to wait to live my life until I am some perfect size. I think that is a really cool message. And I think that all the people who hated on her, and she would just like post a picture of her in a swimsuit, just like, I'm having a great day at the beach. And all these weirdos had to be in her comments saying, you're glorifying diabetes. But just because she was like, yeah, I'm not waiting to live my life until I'm at a certain size. Those people, speaking of unprocessed trauma, that's the seamless tapestry. Yeah. All of our subjects coming together here. I truly believe that is like their way of, they just have some trauma that they haven't processed, and so they have to go troll Lizzo when she was bigger for like wearing a swimsuit or something. So I defended her when she was big, and I still do, but now she has lost weight, and that's great. That's what she wanted to do. She lost weight. Speaking of unprocessed trauma, man, I'm telling you guys, one of these days I'm getting a burner account. I don't have one yet. And you know what? I'm going to do $100 a month Patreon. And it'll be screenshots of what I say on my burner account. That might have to be $300 a month with a non-disclosure that you had, ironclad non-disclosure. That would be the Patreon. That's how we make the money. Okay, that's how the comedy millions are coming in. I don't even have to do anything else. I don't even have to write a new comedy set. It's just me, screenshots of what I say on my burner. I'd be so busy. I don't have time to have a burner. I mean, I would be so busy. It would be like 5 hours a day I would have to dedicate to just setting people straight. But then I'd forget. I'd probably forget and switch. Yeah. I'd be, oh yeah. Speaking of last week, we talked about Dad Hub's life, and I think he probably did this on purpose as like to get attention, because that's kind of his thing. But I saw a comment from him. It was from his account that was like, great work, bro. Keep going. You're an inspiration. It's like, everyone's like, did you forget to switch account? That would be me. I'd be like, you're so funny. You're my favorite comic from my verified account, like on my own. Like, yeah. So anyway, that's why I can't have a burner. But one of the things I would go crazy on, I mean, that $300 a month Patreon level, it would be well worth it. I would lose it on people who say that Lizzo cheated because she got on Ozempic. Here is how I see Ozempic and I forget. I think I don't know how to pronounce the one that's tirzepatide. Tirzepatide is the generic name. It's like Mounjaro and Wegovy. I don't know how to pronounce these names, but the generic is semaglutide. That's Ozempic, and then the celebrities, like people who are in media and like LA comedy, Hollywood culture. No one's on semaglutide. Everyone's on tirzepatide. But whatever. The point is, she did one of those things, and a lot of people say that that's cheating. That she's cheating. That she should have just, I don't know, done it through sheer willpower. She should have done it only by whatever. It makes me so angry. It's honestly crazy how angry it makes me, because my opinion, which is the correct one, is that all taking GLP-1s does is move you closer to the lower end of the food addiction spectrum. That's all it does, is it moves you. Like if you were at a 60 on the 1 to 100 food addiction scale, it moves you down to be closer to a 20. All it does is level the playing field. It doesn't make you not want to ever eat again. It doesn't, it's like not some magic thing that burns fat. It just makes you have a normal level of cravings. And so people, it just drives me crazy, because people who are a 10 naturally on the scale of 1 to 100 are like, Lizzo cheated. Lizzo, all these people who do the GLP-1s, they cheated. They should have done what I did, which is just have some willpower around food. It's like, no. They literally did exactly what you did. By taking GLP-1s, it moved them to be, frankly, they probably still have more of a struggle than you, but it moved them to, let's say, be a 15 on the scale of 1 to 100 so that they can start making better choices about their food. All it did is level the playing field. Now, do I have any personal experience with it? You guys know I tried it. Come on, you know I tried it. I did. I tried that, so I'm not currently on it, but I did try it, and it does exactly what I said it. It does exactly what I said it did. Yeah. It's like if I am normally a 40 or 50 in terms of food addiction, it moved me to like a 10 or a 15. I would go to Dana, I would go to our workouts, and I was like, if this is what you have been experiencing your whole life, I'm going to sue. I don't know who I'm going to sue God. Like, this is so unfair if this is how you have been living your life. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. And you know, the other thing that I found interesting about it is when I've tried that stuff, I don't crave alcohol. I am also a normal person when it comes to alcohol. I'm like, I'll just a sip for me, thanks. Pims and lemonade. You know what? I think I'll just have. Why would I want more than a sip? Listen, I've got work to do tomorrow. Please. It's like normally I'm like, I've only had 3.
Bring on
Let's
another.
go. I don't even need lemonade in the next one. I'm like grabbing the bottle of Pims. I resent everyone who has been living their whole lives like this and not telling me. Like they need to never speak again. They need to never speak about anything related to food, drink, alcohol again. Never. Don't say a word about it, because it's not the same playing field. It is simply not the same playing field. If you are lower on the food addiction scale versus being higher. You know what? I'll go into this more on the Patreon after party. That's the base level Patreon, where we just keep the cameras rolling, keep everything recording after the episode. I'll tell you guys more about my Ozempic, GLP-1, all that, like my experience on it and the pros and cons and what I thought. But I'll keep the details to the Patreon after party. So that link is in the show notes, and you guys can look it up, patreon.com/thisisjen. But anyway, the main thing I want to get out there is that is not only is it not quote unquote cheating to do these GLP-1s, but it is probably still more of a struggle for someone who has food addiction tendencies to keep their cravings under control so that they don't feel like a heroin addict around food, it is probably still more of a struggle than the people who are naturally just low craving, low addiction people. And by the way, another thing that furthers the theory that essentially what these GLP-1s do is they lessen whatever hormonal and chemical mechanisms are within us that drive addiction. I don't have this study handy, but I did see it. You can look it up. I swear it's out there. I swear I'm not making this up. I saw a study that people who are on GLP-1s like semaglutide or tirzepatide, it also helps with gambling addictions. Oh, I read that. Yes, I can't remember whether this was a clinical study or whether it was heavy anecdotal, like people everyone in a Reddit forum was like, yes, this is crazy, which I think is not to be blown off. I mean, I do think there is a place for anecdotal data, but look it up. I think it was very interesting. And I noticed that as well when I tried it. I noticed that just in general, my like insanely intense pleasure seeking behavior, whether it was from eating or even just like, even my tendency to scroll social media was a little bit lessened. Now that, don't worry, I got over it. I would be on TikTok for like 2 hours. I was able to overcome that one, but it was lessened. I didn't feel like I was as much of a dopamine addict. It's crazy. So that is how I think about these GLP-1s. Is all it does is take whatever number you currently have on the 1 to 100 scale, and it just moves you a little closer to zero. Not all the way there, but it'll knock 20, 30 points off, frankly. And so when I get my burner account, you will see. It'll be like, Jen's Day 368 being like, you have no idea what it's like to struggle with food addiction, for these people who say that it's cheating. I will never forget that the first time I walked into Dana's and I was like, if this is what it is like to be you people, I did just stop. Like you have no idea. You have no idea the constant struggle that the rest of us go through. I almost feel like everyone, even if it's not something that you want to do for the long term, I feel like anyone who has any food addiction tendencies should try it at some point, just so that you can extra resent people who are like normally wired. You don't know how they're living. If you, like me, have tendencies to food addiction or alcohol addiction or whatever, you don't know how the other half is living, and you will be all the more just blown away by what their life is like if you ever try living a week or two without that constant calculation of, what am I going to eat next? And wait, I think we have some sourdough. Ooh, we got the melted bread. And like without that soundtrack in your head all the time, it's insane. So comment on YouTube about this with your thought. I actually am interested to hear people's thoughts on this, if they've tried it and if they found the same thing. I mean, that was a wild experience to live like normally wired people and to have a normal relationship with food and to not be controlled by it, and spending 80% of my waking hours like in some way having that on the back burner that I've got to manage, wait, what am I eating? No, I shouldn't eat that next. And to have that whole back burner just gone, just cleared off, like, no, I can just exist. I can just be in the present moment. And I don't need to think about what I'm eating next and what food we have in the house. Or it'll be fine. I'll find something. It's so, some people live like this all the time. I can't believe it. Okay. So there's that. What else? Oh yeah. Okay. A lot of women feel like they lose themselves in motherhood. Or if they don't have kids, they feel like they will lose themselves. And I think the reason, like, let's take moms who they are moms and they currently feel that way. I think the reason you guys feel that way, that you're like, I don't even know who I am anymore, is because you're being a fraud all the time. That's modern society really tells us as moms that there is one way to be a mother, and there is one love language. There's one way to love your kids. We've talked about this before, that we have lost the concept that there could be multiple love languages to give and receive love with your children. It's funny, we understand it with relationships, that some people it's acts of service, other people it's gifts. But when it comes to motherhood, basically the idea is that you have to have the temperament and the blue flame of a preschool teacher, and you have to have a brain that is naturally kind of tidy and likes domestic, very physical things like baking. Like you have to genuinely really enjoy cooking and sweeping, and like the influencer. What did clean people? They're like, I don't know, they clean out their fridges. Oh yeah, I've seen. Yeah. And by the way, I tried that. You guys, this is crazy. It gets dirty again. Yeah. I didn't see that coming, because I was like, I watch Operation Nikki. I follow her. I follow Raising Cades. I was like, that's it. I'm going to be like them. And I did clean out my fridge, and it was trashed again 3 days later. I'm like, well, this is why we don't do it over here. I opened my fridge yesterday, and like something growled at me. And I was like, there's no... what can I do? I mean, it'll just get trashed again. But okay, so modern society tells us that these are the only love languages. It has to be doing what someone who is a preschool teacher, and that's, which is great, by the way. God, I love our preschool teachers. Like those women saved my life. They were my village for many years. And that is a great personality type, but it is one of many personality types. But according to our society, you have to pretend like you have that natural temperament. Like sitting on the floor and playing blocks is something that is like, sounds all right. Like I could do that. Yeah, we could put the triangle in the little triangle shape, and we're going to talk about this is the color yellow, and that sort of thing. Some women hear that and are like, that sounds fun. It's really cute to play with kids. Women like me, it's like it hurt my brain to even think through that scenario. Like it's not, my brain isn't, that's tough. That's very tough for me. And just doing things like the arts and crafts, and there's also, oh my gosh, guys, there's so much preening about educating your little kids. Like I saw someone was going over an atlas with their 2-year-old. We got to have an intervention. Guys, listen, this is so, this is where I really think that us Gen Xers need to tell you guys a little bit about how we were raised. I mean, you didn't do anything before you went to kindergarten. You went to kindergarten at 5 years old. You didn't know anything. You didn't know your letters and your shapes and your colors, because our parents were busy. They had jobs. They were busy. They didn't. There was no that like, oh, it's yes. You can pick out Mongolia on a map. Like, no, we didn't know anything when we went to kindergarten, and look how great we turned out. We're doing just fine. But there's all this one-upsmanship about like, yes, well, I spent 2 hours teaching my children Latin, and then we went on a nature walk, and then we cut out shapes and made crafts. And well, no wonder you guys feel like you lost yourselves. That is a very narrow personality type. That it's a great personality type, but it is a very specific personality type. The kind of woman who has those teaching tendencies, the kind of woman who has crafty tendencies, and the kind of woman who is good at working with young children, especially toddlers. It is a wonderful and very specific personality type. And you guys are out here acting like that's your personality type. And if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably not. It is. If you are, how many minutes are we? We're
or just about.
How many?
Almost 50.
If you are 50 minutes into this podcast, I don't think you have that personality type. And if you're acting like you do, no wonder you don't know who you are anymore. And I think the thing that we're afraid of is that we don't want to become too indulgent in our authenticity, because all of us, so many of us listening to this podcast are in the horrible situation that we don't have the 10 household staff members that we need. We don't have the live-in housekeeper, the 4 live-in nannies, the live-in governess, the butler. I mean, the chauffeur. It's very sad that we don't have these things. And so we do kind of have to step up and do all these people's jobs. And I do think that we worry that if you become self-indulgent in your authenticity, that you could kind of neglect your kids or make them feel like they didn't get as much of a childhood. So, for example, yes, it makes me feel like my brain is actually melting to sit down and do toddler games with toddlers. It's beyond painful. It's very hard. I should have been on Adderall. I'm not even kidding. I should have gotten Adderall when my kids were little. That would have helped me. But when you do 2 things simultaneously, it works out. And the 2 things are, 1, figuring out who you are and embracing your authenticity as a mother, but 2, being very attuned to your family's needs and what love language they like to receive, and doing your best to make it work, to give them that love language as much as possible without you losing your mind. It's a subtle shift, but it's an important one. So if I had it all to do over again, I wouldn't have tried to pretend like, doing preschool teacher things is something that my brain can easily do. And the biggest thing is I would have let go of the concept that that's even something I should be aspiring to. When my kids were little, I walked around under the weight of the idea that I was a bad mom and I was not fulfilling my end of the deal as a mom, because I did have to force myself to sit down and play blocks, and that cooking, it's just, I mean, I do it. I'm still the primary cook in the family, and it's fine. I don't despise it, but it's also I'm not super into it. And I'm not a clean freak by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I would try to keep my house livable, try to not make it like the government needs to get involved here, but I'm not a natural neat freak by any means. And I walked around under that very heavy weight that I was failing anew every day because I couldn't morph into that person who I am not. The mental shift I wish I had gone through is saying, look, it's good to sit down and play blocks with your kids sometimes. And that's where the love part of it comes in. You love your kids. You're watching them. You see what they need. You see what they need. And you say, oh, okay, I observe that this kid likes it when we play blocks. So I will try to do that more often. But you can kind of do it with a wry smile. Like, I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad at this. But like in a funny way, not in a condemning way, just in a like, man, whew, you lost the mom lottery on this one. Cause I'm not the one, I struggle with this. This is not something that comes naturally to me. So you still do the things that your kids that bless them, but you do it with the understanding, look, I'm not good at this. It would really be best if we had a village, again going back to what we're designed to need. When we lived in tribal villages, I mean, eons ago, 10,000 and more years ago, it's like you would have your nieces running around. You would have little cousins and nieces and younger sisters who would be doing these things with the kids. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. Mothers in previous eras had no time for this. By the way, as an aside, moms never had time to sit down and play games with their kids. That was for the young girls of the village. That was for siblings and cousins and nieces and nephews to come around and entertain the kids. So it's also ahistorical that people are like, good traditional mothers, they do crafts with their kids. They never, why are you kidding? My great-great-grandmother never did one craft with her kids. She didn't have time. They were trying to survive. So anyway, that's why so many of you feel like you have lost yourself, that you have this cookie cutter idea of what a good mom should look like, and you're trying to stuff yourself into that cookie cutter, and it doesn't work. And again, what you're afraid of in seeking your own authenticity is that your kids won't get something they need, because you rightfully sense that something is missing here. What is missing is not something within you. What is missing is not willpower to do a better job on your part. What's missing is a village that, you weren't meant to be all things to your kids. You weren't meant to model both patience and boldness and being soft-spoken, but also speaking out, and being neat, but also being artistic and free-spirited. You weren't meant to model all these things for your kids. They were meant to live in a village where they would have a variety of female influences of all ages who could model different characteristics for them. And so you're trying to be an entire village for your kids, and it's not working, and it's just making you feel like you have lost yourself in your own identity along the way. The way to resolve this is to really embrace and seek to discover who you authentically are as a mother, and accept that there will be some areas that you're not great at, and that's okay. And you will still do them because that's what your kids need and want, and that is a way that you can connect and love your family. So you'll still do them, but you'll kind of inwardly laugh at yourself at how bad you are at this. Like when I think twice I tried to take my kids on a nature walk, and it is better for everyone involved if you can kind of laugh at yourself and accept, yeah, this is not my thing. Can you guys even imagine me trying to lead a nature walk with 6 young children?
No.
I tried it. I did.
I can't even imagine that.
It was worse than you think. But what made it so bad is I was trying to pretend like this was my thing. Can you imagine that? Me trying to be like, this is great. I know, I love it. Getting stung by 4 different things before we even start the walk. Almost dying of heat stroke. All my makeup melting off because I'm a ball of angry sweat. The kids aren't even having a good time. Like, they're yelling like, no, this is great because I don't know. This is like what you're supposed to do. It's because I followed all these influencers who live in like Oregon, where like you can go outside without literally every single thing you encounter trying to kill you. It's like 3 of us got poison ivy. I mean, it's, it would have been better for everyone involved if we could have just laughed at like, yeah, this is not mom's thing. But mom recognizes that there are some things you don't have in your lives because we don't have a village. So I'm taking you out on a nature walk, and I'm not going to do a good job at this, but I love you guys, so we're going to give it a shot. That would have been a much better tone under which to do this. And I talked to you guys a few episodes ago about my mother-in-law, and she's really my model on this, that she was just so poor and struggling so hard that she did not have a choice but to be authentic. There was no energy left in her life for being a fraud. Let's see. That was episode 264. I did a lot on my mother-in-law, and I think it's really worth hearing about her because she was so poor. She had no support system. She had to be kind of disconnected from her family. My husband's dad left when he was little. And so it was just her. Zero safety net, none. No family, no village, and no money, no education, just nothing. She had nothing. And for new listeners, and I say this because it's important for the story, my husband went on to go to Yale for undergrad, graduated with honors, Columbia Law School, Stanford Business School, and is like, he does not have issues. He doesn't have issues with women. He just really doesn't have issues. Like, he just feels great about his self-esteem. He had a great relationship with his mom. He even didn't have issues about his dad leaving. He rekindled his relationship with him. He said, oh yeah, I really understand it. He had his own struggles. I mean, he was like, he's as mentally sound, I think, as a person can be. And I think that is really a reflection of the great job that his mother did. And again, as I said in episode 264, she had nothing to work with. She had no resources. But what she did bring to the table is that combination of a deep love for her son and willingness to sacrifice and to give him whatever he needs, but also a deep authenticity in who she is. It never even occurred to her to be fake or to try to be a Martha Stewart type mom. I mean, that was so outside of the realm of possibilities that it was like, did not even cross her mind. And her house was kind of messy, and it was kind of chaotic, and she was not much of a cook. And I mean, she was always like fighting various one woman against the system crusades against people. She'd be like yelling at the mayor and fighting with a neighbor about something. And it was, I mean, his house growing up, she very much had kind of a chaotic, extreme ADHD sort of tendencies, but she didn't beat herself up about it. She didn't wallow in guilt. It would have been so bad for him. And I think it would have actually kind of scarred him, and it would have made him feel like his childhood was less than if she had beaten herself up about it. If she were like, oh, I should have the perfect house and we should have money and I should be able to buy these things. And no, she accepted that this is what she had. This is what God gave her. And this is the personality God gave her. This is the financial situation God gave her. And she was always seeking to improve where she could. But she was not going to pretend to be someone that she wasn't. And if you and I could jump back in a time machine and go back to the 80s when she was raising her son, and if we brought modern influencer culture to this and said, hey, don't you feel guilty that you haven't taken your son on a nature walk? Don't you feel like you should be having a beautifully designed house and have it be clean all the time, and that you should be cooking wholesome foods, 3 meals a day? She PG-13 language warning if your kids are listening, but she'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, she would start yelling at you. She'd kick you out of her house probably. But frankly, I think that would be the right attitude, that she would just be like, that's not me. That the good Lord did not give me the skills to be some Michelin star chef. She wouldn't have known that reference because she wasn't able to finish high school, but that would essentially have been her tone. Like, the good Lord did not give me those skills. Why would I be out here pretending to be some chef when I am not? That is not the personality that God gave me. Why would I pretend to be some fancy froofy woman keeping her house all perfect and there's not one single crumb on the table? That's not the skills that God gave me. And God gave her other skills. I mean, she was a great fighter, and she would, anytime there was any injustice, if a teacher wasn't treating my husband fairly, or if there was any kind of bullying, or if anyone was messing with him in any way. I mean, there's a story of he was being treated poorly by at a neighbor's house, and when she found out about it, she barged into their house. Like, she didn't knock. I mean, she barged into their house, screamed at everyone, got him out of there. And that's the thing, is you will have more energy left over to fight the battles for your kids and on behalf of your kids and with your kids that you were meant to fight when you stop draining your energy trying to be someone you're not. I think if you feel like you've lost yourself in motherhood, I think it is definitely a sign that you're trying to be someone you're not because you've seen some sort of model of what mothers are supposed to be. And let me tell you, as someone married to someone whose mother very much did not try to fit any kind of mold, it's very healthy for your kids. It is very healthy for your kids to really lean into the skills you do have and just let it go, the skills you don't have. Again, do your best. Like, I did try to sit down and play little games with the kids. It was a disaster, but I did try just so that they could see I'm trying. I'm not good at this, but I'm trying. So, do what you can. Really, obviously, throw yourself into loving these little people and seeing them and being genuinely curious about what they need. But then put the rest of your energy into very authentically being yourself. And a very cool thing happens that you will start to see the way your unique temperament blesses your children. I think that's been one of the coolest things of my parenting journey. The more I have leaned into and accepted who I am, the more I see how much that has blessed my kids and my family and how much better it is than I was when I was pretending to be someone I am not. It has been such a grace and such a blessing. And because keep in mind, God could have sent these kids to anyone, but he sent them to you. I'll say that again because you guys need to hear the two people who are still listening to this episode here at the very end. God could have sent these kids to anyone, but he sent them to you. So therefore, you must have something authentically within you that they need. And it really has been such a cool thing in my life to see how much when I am my authentic self, it blesses my kids. One example is just last night, I was talking to my son who does the trench wars and stuff. We had this very long conversation about Napoleon and how he was really different than Caesar, even though Caesar was like a big model of his. Like he did quite a few things different and the things that led to his downfall. And look, most people don't have the kind of brain that can do both. Go deep into the real mechanics of Napoleonic warfare and play blocks with kids. Usually it's like, you have one kind of personality type or another. So did my son miss out on having a mom who sat down cross-legged on the floor and was doing little games? Yeah, he didn't get as much of that. Again, I did it sometimes at very sweet moments, but it's not something that comes naturally to me. But he does think it's very cool that we will go into it. We'll be like, Napoleon really admired Tsar Alexander. And it really seems that everyone says he just wanted to invade Russia, but I don't think he did. What do you think? And I mean, it's this whole thing and he loved it and I loved it. And you will find moments like that with you as well. And it might take a while. It might take a while for you to find yourself and get used to expressing yourself authentically as a mother, especially if it goes against influencer culture, if it doesn't involve getting one of those steam cleaners as you clean out your fridge. I do want one. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I want one too.
Yeah, I think that might be what's missing in my house is a steam cleaner gets everything perfect. And so if your personality, like mine, is not very Instagrammable. And so there aren't a lot examples of mothers who bring this particular thing to the table. It will probably take you a while to find your groove. But when you find it, it's really a beautiful, miraculous, just this grace-filled thing when you're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Actually, me being my authentic self, these kids need this. And in fact, when I was pretending to be like the mom influencers or like the preschool teachers, or who, again, there's great people, great personality types, just not mine and probably not yours. You realize that my kids were actually missing out when I was pretending to have these other personality types. And you'll see just how many blessings flow when your kids finally get to encounter who you really are. All right, no episode next week because this one was so good. It's like it would be like too much. It would just be too much to do another episode next week after this hot fire. I should just rerun this one as the best of. It's I just don't. I might honestly because I promote the right shows. I don't put it past me to run this one as the best of next week. All right, we will be back with you week after that here on the Jen Fulwiler Show. I really might.